Welcome back to Crossfire. We are here with two members of Congress. We have the legendary Rosa DeLauro, who's here, and we also have the rising star Republican Raul Labrador, and we have my co-host, who used to be the Speaker of the House. Now listen, I am tired of all this crap. We have this bickering and bickering all day long on cable TV for weeks and weeks and weeks. I want for people at home to feel like there is some way out of this. Now, you were the Speaker of the House. If you got a phone call from Boehner and Obama, they're both on the line, they're three-weighing you in. Give us some hope. What is the framework to get out of this?
Well, first of all, I'd say, can I have Van join us? Look, I think there are, you asked me this earlier, we were talking about the show tonight and having two talented people like this. And I think where the country is, which I experience when I go out around the country, people, they just look at the city like we've lost our minds. Yeah. In both parties. There's a general sense of office. Mm-hmm. I have three principles that may surprise you. The first is you've got to talk. I mean, whether the president wants to call it negotiating, whatever, just as you're saying about going down there today, just the act of talking starts some process that's different. Second, I had a sign which John Boehner cited recently that said, listen, learn, help, and lead. And he was citing about his own conference. That's how Clinton and I operated internally. We had to listen to each other. We had to learn from each other in order to figure out what the boundaries are. And then lastly, what I'd pose to our two friends here tonight is start with the easiest part of the negotiation. Don't start with the hard. I mean, Obamacare is the hardest. You're going to get to it last. And the president doesn't want to give up anything, and the Republicans want everything. And out of 2,700 pages, there ought to be something. But don't even get started there. I mean, put it to one side and say, okay, what could we agree on?
So that strikes me as somewhat near
but you do
good.
You do not need to have the government shut down while you speak, while you talk. Open the government, reopen it.
But hold on.
Hang on. Reopen the government and have a conversation. It is not a threat to have a conversation. The president said on TV yesterday, first paragraph of his speech, which I, heard him and then I read it. I am happy to talk about anything that my Republican colleagues want to talk about. Let's open the government and talk. That is the first principle.
5 years to talk, and he doesn't talk to the Republicans.
Doesn't even talk to
his own caucus.
That's not true.
But
that is not true.
Something that we could do, there's something that we offered as House conservatives. We had a bill that was introduced a few weeks ago that would have done a one-year continuing resolution in exchange for a one-year delay of Obamacare. Because I think in any negotiation, both sides need to get something.
Okay, but that's a non-starter. We've been talking about that for 2 weeks. So what else could you do?
The other thing that I think...
you got to answer too. I think fair is fair now. Somebody's got to give up something that's real.
I'm concerned about having negotiations on Obamacare on the debt ceiling. And in fact, all the House conservatives told the leadership that we didn't want to have negotiations on the debt ceiling about Obamacare. We wanted to have negotiations about debt, about future deficits, about all those things. So I would actually open up the government, and this would be a concession on my part. I would not open up the government. I would do a debt ceiling increase for 6 weeks so the president can actually negotiate with John Boehner, and I would keep fighting on the continuing resolution and Obamacare. Separate those two issues. I don't want to worry about the credit.
That's interesting.
I don't want to worry about the credit worthiness of the United States.
Hold on a second. That's actually interesting. So you're saying you would accept a 6-week clean debt ceiling vote? Noel?
Well, no, the issue is, does that mean the government is still shut down while that is occurring?
It will be, but at least we don't have to worry about the credit worthiness of the United States, because I am concerned about that. People might want to call me radical, all these different things, but I don't think any Republican in the House wants to actually bridge the debt ceiling. We are actually very concerned about that. So I think that way we can continue to negotiate on the other issue, but we don't actually have to worry about the nation going into chaos if anything happens.
Well, I think that there is a problem with leaving the government shut down because of the impact on what is happening to people, the reality of that impact.
But you want us to surrender on everything.
No, I'm just saying to you is that why... this is not something new that you all have engaged in. I recall when we got to the brink on the last debt ceiling. And so what do we do 6 weeks from now if you don't get everything that you want? Do we then just keep moving along with a debt? You bring us to the brink of the cliff every time we get there.
But the president said that he wants to be able to negotiate. We're giving him the opportunity. If we did that, we would give him the opportunity to negotiate.
But then what, you know, is there... If with a negotiation, if you don't get everything that you want, what do you want?
See, I just gave in, and they're not willing to accept it.
But this is why listen and learn is important.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of patience. I mean, Clinton and I met vastly more often than we wanted to. But let me ask you this, if I could, Congressman DeLauro.
Sure.
If the Republicans brought up a clean 6-week debt ceiling, just by itself, without getting involved in the fight over the shutdown, do you think that the caucus would be willing to vote to give us 6 more weeks to talk?
Well, the caucus has been willing to give a 6-week reprieve for talking with regard to the shutdown of the government. Why are we separating the two out? Let's reopen the government. We can have the conversation about the debt ceiling. I won't put a time frame on it, but if there is an opportunity to talk, I believe in having that opportunity to talk about these things, to negotiate. But under the threat that the government is shut or we go over a cliff, that's, you know, in the shutdown.
I'm trying to take one of the two away.
Yes. But in the shutdowns that occurred, and you know, many Republicans have talked about 17 of them. The shutdown was over a spending issue, not a law. No, 11 times it was about a spending issue. 4 times it was contra aid. 4 times it was abortion. 2 times it was contra aid. This was spending areas, not.
Well, Obamacare is a pretty big spending area.
But it's a law. It's the law of the land.
I want to go back to
my friend.
So is the sequester. Remember that. The sequester is the law of the land as well.
Do you think the president? Because here's what I'm confused by, and this is the difference. You can grind along with a certain amount of pain and friction with a government shutdown. According to the Secretary of the Treasury, next week, you're going to hit a cliff that there's a disaster. Now, so my question would be for Harry Reid and for the president, if Speaker Boehner passed a 6-week clean debt ceiling to give them time to talk, to take the gun away from the president's head on that set of issues, would the Senate pass it when the president sign it? I mean, they may. I think that is up for conversation. It ought to be up for conversation. But what we shouldn't do is to hold the nation hostage because a small group of people. I just want to make one point. I think it's very, very important to note. In the shutdown in 95, I mean, because this is underlying, let's be clear the issue. Shutdown in 95 was $270 billion in a cut to Medicare, $270 billion in a tax cut for the wealthy. Fast forward 2013, it is about the Affordable Care Act and shutting the government down. What this is all about, underlying everything, and this is really fundamental in terms of the Republican Party, it is roll back social insurance that benefits working and middle-class families. That was your
That's what this is about. That's what it's about.
What we said at the time was it was about welfare reform, it was about reforming the entitlements, and it was about getting to a balanced budget. And the only 4 consecutive balanced budgets in your lifetime came out of that. So if you think balancing the budget matters, we did achieve.
You had block grants for welfare, for Medicaid, for food stamps, for social services, for education,
we're modernizing
for training.
Let me just in the time we've got left, I got a couple more questions for you. 2 things happened today that I was curious about. One, you had Paul Ryan come out with, I thought, a very constructive. Again, we're trying to get to a deal here. Paul Ryan came out very constructive proposal today. I thought it was interesting to look at. Never thought I'd be praising Paul Ryan on national television, but here we are. But he left out Obamacare. Is Paul Ryan right to move forward without Obamacare? And will you get on Team Paul Ryan to get us out of this mess?
Paul Ryan's actually doing the same thing that I'm suggesting. He was separating the debt ceiling from the CR. Everything in that article was actually about the debt ceiling. It was about how do we get a handle on our debt and our deficits. And I actually agree with everything Paul Ryan said.
Well, why did all your friends jump on him so bad? Erickson attacked him. I mean, all your two-party people jumped all over him. I think some people are misunderstanding
what he was saying. And I talked to Paul today about it, and he made it pretty clear that what he was doing is separating both issues.
My understanding of that as well is he didn't include revenue in that. Is revenue off the table?
I hate
Is revenue off the table?
Probably. Okay. I hate to do this. I hate to do this, but because of the time of the program, I have to thank Representative DeLauro. We're delighted to have you back. And again, Raul Labrador, you two are terrific.